Alright, welcome back, Pokemon enthusiasts. As always, my name is Matthew, and I'm joined here today with Tristan, and we will be your hosts for the IPA Season 4 Grand Finals. Now, Tristan, nerves here are at an all-time high, and as they should be. Final game, final opportunity to show the community what you can do. Now, there are no redos. Tournament life is on the line for both coaches. One of these coaches will inevitably be leaving with the grand title, while the other will leave with nothing. Now, Tristan, what do you expect here on both sides to be our leads? We've got a few potential leads on each side. We can see a Piloswine potential lead. We do know that it's not U-turn, Golbat, or anything of the like. Could see the Landorus lead. However, things like Landorus, things like even potentially Heatran, always fairly evident enough as potential leads. So we'll have to see what the counterplay is.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. We look at both sides of the field. I think King with having that Char-X and that Mandibuzz and
No, that is Owen, my friend. That's not King.
well, on the opposite side of it.
Oh, okay, okay.
But like having like going in, if I was in King's shoes here, Owen has no Stealth Rock resist, and he only has one usual quote unquote defogger, unless he wants to bring that
Well,
defog
if I'm
charge
not
X.
mistaken, neither Pokemon is carrying the Defog this game. We'll really quickly go over to
Ooh.
let everyone see, but we're not bringing Defog Lottie, and we're not bringing Defog Golbat on this turn. So, fairly safe enough. We've got the Landorus lead. Now, we do have the Sylveon lead on the side over here, and in general, this Pokemon is a fairly hard Pokemon to switch into, assuming, of course, Owen can predict correctly, because he is going to have to be predicting correctly if he wants to be getting significant damage off onto it. Now, we do know this is physically defensive Golbat, which is going to be able to take Choice Specs Psyshocks relatively with ease. So that in itself is something to bring up. I suppose you would be forcing a potential roost if you did go for the Psyshock on the switch, and of course you can be going around off potential damage rolls or anything of the like. On the note, of course, with the Golbat here has actually a really interesting matchup, you might say. I mean, sure, it's weak to Stealth Rocks, and sure, there's no hazard removal, or King actually isn't bringing any hazard removal. But as long as he doesn't get burned by the little Mola, look at the matchup that the Golbat is having right here. It's actually really interesting. You'll see right here, Owen is not bringing a Cleric, so any Toxics he throws off are going to be here to stay. As you see, King just goes for the U-turn with the Landorus, so we're going to see what he's switching into. The Golbat is very, very probable, most likely. If he wants to go into Heatran, that in itself is a scary enough play to go for. As you see right here, Psyshock is going to do 50%. Golbat's still at 51%. If I'm not mistaken, based on the damage calcs that I've seen from that both players have provided me with, I don't think that this is a roll. I think that next hit is going to be able to survive no matter what. Now, this is Choice Specs, so King, and of course King most likely is going to know that based off his own damage calcs, so he can react to this however he wants. He can be switching out into Heatran, into the Lottie, he could stay in, he can go for a number of things. However, the Golbat is not going to be able to switch in very, very easily into anything else after that damage has already been done, if it wants to double out here, especially if Stealth Rocks get up.
I agree with that. I think just a simple play for King here is just to roost.
He could go for a roost, he could throw
I
out a
don't think
Toxic.
he loses anything by it. I think Owen would rather try going off his own nature. I think Owen would rather try to make not a I don't want to say a prediction, but go a little more middle ground and try to get something in his favor because he probably thinks that a roost is going to be incoming.
Well, at the end of the day, the thing that you have to know about going when you're talking about, well, never mind, I'll get to that later. So we do see the double out here with not specifically the double, but we do see the Piloswine coming in here, and then we see the double out after that into the Clefable. Clefable just wanting to come in on a not specs fairy type move, and looking like the Piloswine is going to want to be getting up the Stealth Rocks. As we mentioned, there is no removal, so once he's go up, he's going to be up to stay. Owen is going to be a little bit more pressured to try to potentially try to get rid of hazards as long as his Charizard is not Mega Evolved. But as far as I can see, we're just going to see the rocks going up on the side of King's side.
Yeah, I think that's a very safe play right there. One thing to say though, with the set that King has for this Clefable, and versus this Piloswine that Owen has, this Clefable could easily set up on it.
For sure, for sure. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a few elements of counterplay that Owen has kind of tried to prepare in that sense to go against a boosting Clefable. I remember him talking about how Mandibuzz is able to live a boosted hit, I believe at +2, he can still take it. And of course, Charizard, just being as strong as it is able to just threaten Clefable from there, because even with max HP, even with max defense, and even with a nature, it's still going to be taking a significant amount of damage from the Flare Blitz, and that's going to pretty much put it in range of the majority of the rest of the team.
Yeah, I think that's a nice and good safe assumption there. We see Owen go right into his Spec Sylveon on the Cosmic Power. I think that's a nice and interesting play.
Right, it's an interesting start to things. We're gonna have to see how Owen wants to react to this, because this could potentially be something he sets up on, and the damage is going to start going down quite significantly every time he starts boosting after this. So we're gonna have to see what he wants to go for right here. If he wants to just stay in and go for a lot of damage, if he wants to. Now, I'm not sure if Hyper Voice 2 kills, but I do not believe it's going to 2 kill, especially if he goes for Calm Mind here again. He should be able to, sorry, not Calm Mind, if he wants to go for Cosmic Power or Calm Mind, I suppose either one is fine. He should be able to take a Hyper Voice after this upcoming one, and should be able to potentially just set up on that. So we're going to see, again, what his counterplay is going to be going into this.
And just so everyone who's watching this gets things straight, yes, you did hear Cosmic Power and Calm Mind because King is running both of them on this Clefable,
Exactly.
along with Moonblast and the Recovery move.
I mean, when you think of it, what exactly is he going to, what coverage, rather, is he really going to be needing for anything else on one side of the field? He doesn't need really any other type of coverage, because Moonblast is going to be hitting everything for more than enough damage, especially once you start getting boosts up. The only thing that's going to be, of course, resisting that is going to be the Charizard, and the Charizard can't really afford to particularly not Mega Evolve, especially with the Clefable starting to get the defense boosts.
I agree with that. We see a double here.
Right. So as I said, this is a Whirlwind Mandibuzz, so Owen's just going to be cutting his losses. He knows that he has to start getting rid of this immediately, so he's just going to be, he knows he's going to have to take pretty much enough damage onto his Mandibuzz that's essentially going to be a dead Mandibuzz, unless he Whirlwinds him out into something like the Snorlax, because he can just pretty freely roost on this. This is a Curse Lock, it's not a Banded set, so he's pretty free to go for the roost. He could get paralyzed here. As we know, of course, there's no way to remove status, but we're going to have to see, again, how he's going to counterplay to this, because that's really, if you're talking about RNG right here, that's a pretty nice role for him to get into, to go right into the Snorlax. Talking about things that he would be able to roost on, this is one of the few things left that he would be able to roost on quite freely, especially at 30%.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, with this Curse Talk Snorlax here, I think actually it has just a very good matchup in general, and I think in order for Owen to just make sure that he stays up, well,
yeah, so that's pretty fair. We're right back to where we were before. However, we don't have that +1 special attack boost, so it's not going to be doing anywhere near as much damage. So that's it's going pretty nicely for Owen, I suppose you could say. You could put it like that.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. But with this switching into Clefable, it is now known by Owen and everyone else watching that this Clefable is not unaware. It is in fact Magic Guard.
It is Magic Guard for sure, for sure. That means it's going to have a harder matchup versus the likes of the Serperior, likes of the Charizard potentially. However, the Charizard is going to be what comes in, and the Clefable is no longer at +1, so Charizard's pretty free to start firing off a Flare Blitz. In all honesty. And pretty much on that note, the Charizard being inside, the Charizard is looking at pretty much have a field day right here, Tristan, versus King's team. The only true fire resist, quote unquote, is going to be the Heatran, and even then it's going to be having to play around with the potential of the Charizard having Earthquake. Now, of course, the Snorlax is thick fat, and Lati, of course, is as well technically a fire resist, but Charizard is still going to be doing a lot of damage, no matter what comes in.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Something that we did see here. That I think this
Oh,
is a
we do
really
see a
good.
really nice switch there, so that's nice. I don't know if
I
that
did
was
like that switch on King's part. He did what he had to do, being that this is a Rocky helmet defensive.
right, right. And we don't know, I mean, we're not entirely sure if that was predicting directly the Landorus, but if you see ladder play, that's typically what people try to do in response to a Charizard X coming out as bringing their Landorus. But this is going to, if nothing else, deter King from going for the Stealth Rocks. As we'll see, this is not his rocker. What's his rocker?
His
Oh,
rocker
it's
is
Heatran,
Heat
Heatran,
Tran.
Heatran. Well, of course, Owen doesn't know that, so in theory, in his mind, he's deterring Stealth Rocks from going up on his side of the field, which is definitely fair, definitely fair, definitely fair. The Charizard is not Mega Evolved yet either, so keeping rocks off his side of the field is just a nice thing to be able to do. He's also deterring the landers from going for U-turn by just having the potential Ice Shard in the back as well. That's going to be a deterrent from getting any chip damage off from the Piloswine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think just a good middle ground play for King here is to either go into his Clefable and slash or Snorlax here. No
For sure.
damage will be taken much,
For sure. So
and we do see it.
that is what we see comes in. And of course we do know this is a pretty close to max physical defense on the Snorlax right here. So he has a potential to start setting up. Of course, we do know the Whirlwind is still a it's still a presence in the back with the Mandibuzz. We do know that the Mandibuzz is still relatively healthy enough as well. So just having that phaser in the back is going to make the Snorlax a lot less scary, a lot less hard to deal with. So I mean, King could start going for curses. He could just start throwing up body slams, trying to get paralysis off on the Mandibuzz, trying to get paralysis off on the Piloswine if he wants, anyways. Either. And of course,
Yeah,
it's your nickname.
I agree with that. And if we look at Owen's team here, there's nothing besides like the Mandibuzz or Alamola that really might not benefit from being paralyzed. So a body slam could easily just cripple things such as Sylveon and Charizard
Well, on that
and
note, I think
Pos.
something like the Mandibuzz, something like the Alomomola would much rather get paralyzed
Oh,
than toxic. So interesting
a
switch. We do
very
see the
risky play.
Superior coming in on the still does a lot of damage. To be fair, now thing about Superior, Superior was actually one of the last minute additions to Owen's team. It was one of the Pokemon Owen wasn't 100% confident bringing, but as we know, it's too late to be making any changes right now. So the substitute Leech Seed Superior, which this set is, with Hidden Power Ground, of course, for the Heatran, is going to be looking to play more of the long game as opposed to the immediate punish that a lot of Pokemon like Charizard X can be bringing to the field. Going to be looking to play kind of a longer game right here, trying to wear things down a little bit longer. Not really, in theory, trying to go for a sweep all on its own. As we know, there's the Infiltrator Crobat in the back, which is going to be deterring it from sweeping in the first place. So yeah, not really looking to be winning all on its own. It's more looking to be breaking down things on King's team.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just go for a Leech Seed. I think this is a really kind of risky what Owen's doing here. He's risking a
I mean, I
good
can see that. I can see that.
paralysis.
And I mean, right now you'll see how much how much recovery you get with the Leech Seed because Snorlax is just so fat. So it's going to be getting a lot of recovery just off with the Leech Seed. And I mean, getting paralyzed right there would have been annoying. But as mentioned, this is kind of a last minute addition. This is kind of a not really thing that needs the speed in order to win, especially with the paralysis nerf this generation. So it doesn't entirely need the speed to do what it's trying to be doing against his team, which is just kind of being a nuisance, I suppose you could say. Whittling things down, getting leech seeds off on things, uh, pressuring King to deal with it a little bit more, maybe with the Golbat, maybe with something like that. He goes straight out into the Golbat right here. It's going to be doing a nice 8%. And, I mean, King is, of course, going to have to be pressured to go for the Roost right here. So Owen can really punish that in any way he wants. He can be going for the Leech Seed if he likes, because he knows that King's going to have to be going for the Roost, and even if he wants to go for the Brave Bird, that's going to be pretty much killing his Golbat, and his Golbat is going to be his premier answer for the... Oh, that actually kills. So that's my mistake. I didn't think that was going to kill. I mean, looking at the damage, 8 and then 16, it makes sense. But I guess it just didn't register when I first saw it, so that's really annoying, because now that actually was his really his premier answer to the superior. So after just saying that the superior wasn't looking to be going for a full sweep, it's looking potential that it could be, in theory, pulling a win off right by itself right here.
Yeah, completely agree right here because if we
It's not
look,
unaware Clefable, and it is hidden power
the
ground
only
potential.
possible thing is the only thing that we do see is that
Well, we do know
with
the
Owen's set, he cannot really touch quote unquote the Latios for a
of
lot of
course.
damage.
Um, However, Lottie shouldn't be able to kill the superior right here from 66%, and he can throw off Leech Seed if he wants. And of course, we'll have to see what that's going to be doing for him, but and of course, just even going for Dragon Pulse in itself is a risky prospect, because we do know Owen has the Sylveon that's just sitting there, that's just waiting to come right back in. And look at the field right here, Tristan. The Golbat is gone. So the only
Mm-hmm.
switch in has to be coming in on a potential Hinbar ground, which is actually pretty
Yeah,
interesting
basically.
when you think of what Owen has been bringing with his Sylveon. The majority of the time, he's going to be clicking that hidden power ground based on what we've seen in his game versus Detroit. He's going to be clicking that hidden power.
Yeah, I think he's going to try to be a little ballsy with his Sylveon predictions. But
I mean,
on
he
the
is
same
sitting
note,
pretty
I think
comfortable
that
with it here. So,
King is a little bit in a very bad position right now
oh, for
because
sure,
he
the
could,
Golbat going
like,
down
his
was, yeah.
only switch in is either the Snorlax or the Latios. And if it's the Latios, then he has to worry about a Dragon Pulse, and he has to worry about an HP ground right here.
All right, so we do see the Heatran coming in. It looks like King is going to be basically banking on the hidden power, anything but ground, hoping that the Superior is going to try to be carrying something to hit the Golbat, trying to carry something to be hitting the Lottie. However, we do know that this is indeed hidden power ground, so this is just going to drop right here, because the Heatran's not the Heatran's Cold Barrier. It's not going to be able to take this. It's not going to be able to take this.
Oh, a substitute.
I mean, we do know that is how Owen likes to play. That is how he likes to do it. He likes to go for the substitute, and that of course, in itself, is a nice play because it shows whether King is going to be going for the um, scout, I suppose you could say, whether he wants to scout for what hidden power the superior has. If he goes into Heatran and then doubles out into Lottie, it shows off that, right? So it's definitely a fair play, because if he went out into Lottie, he would have had a sub up, and he would have been able to start throwing Leech Seed off and starting to take it on pretty decently. However, that being said, King does have the knowledge of the entirety of the set. He did have to trade 2 Pokemon for it, so it's not entirely worth it, but he does know the entirety of the Superior set. So he knows he's
Yes, he does.
pretty free to go out here into the Lottie. But again, we do have the Sylveon in the back, and we have to. It's something else, of course, we have to talk about right here. Both Fairy Resists are now gone.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. When you look at it, all Owen really needs to do is come in and start clicking Hyper Voice, and the only thing that could basically stop it is a Snorlax.
For sure, for sure. So we go for the Dragon Pulse. It is going to take out the Superior. It's not going to be able to get any chip damage off with the Leaf Storm, as it is able to dodge that. So got to be a little bit of a saving grace for King in the back. However, it's gonna only time will tell whether or not it's going to be making very much of a difference, because again, we're going to be seeing Sylveon come in right here, and we're not going to be seeing something able to take that quite well. So, of course, as mentioned, if we do see the Sylveon come in right here, we're basically going to be seeing a sack. We're basically going to see what King is opting to throw away. So, as mentioned, that is exactly what the Sylveon comes in here. No predictions are needed. He can go straight for the Hyper Voice, straight for a kill, rather, and we'll have to see what's going to happen after that, because the Sylveon's still at 87%, so it's going to be able to take a hit from anything.
Mm-hmm.
The question, of course, is going to be, can anything take a hit from Sylveon?
Like we were talking about earlier, like it's basically what does King want to sack right now? The only possible hope he has is going to Snorlax, but it's already at 80%. It's gonna take
And
12%
it's
on
going to be slower, just
rocks,
like the
and then it's gonna
Clefable.
get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. But both of the things that are potentially bulky enough to switch into one hit are both going to be outsped by the Sylveon, and they're both going to be hit with a second Hyper Voice.
Yes, that is true.
So
And
we could just see
I
a Psy
think
Shot
being
coming in
that
here.
what the Snorlax spread is right now, being almost fully physically defensive, that I don't know if Snorlax could take two Specs Hyper voices right now.
Now, it's something else to mention right here. Now, this is this is long game, long term, really far down the line. But something worth talking about is Last Mon Clefable is going to have potentially an interesting time right here. Because Last Mon Clefable is going to be able to, if it starts setting up a Cosmic Power, then it could potentially outpace the Charizard if it sets up Cosmic Powers before the Charizard comes in. So, if the Clefable is able to be Last Mon Clefable, and if it's able to set up on the right target, it's not going to be able to be Whirlwinded out. It is, of course, going to have to be dealing with the Choice Specs Hyper Beam, which is in the back. Owen has carried it potentially for, I remember he told me, the +2 Hyper Beam is going to be doing about, sorry, not +2, sorry, after 2 Calm Minds, rather, Specs Hyper Beam is going to still be doing about 70%.
Yeah, and I think King has the right mindset right now. He wants to just kill this Sylveon. I don't think Owen's going to do it. He has a completely healthy Alamomola in the back. I don't think he's going to let this Sylveon go down.
Right, for sure, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it's looking pretty bleak on the side of on King's side of the field. Again, as mentioned, the Clefable is still there, and the Clefable does have pretty decent potential. But we have to remember that Clefable has to be setting up on the right targets. It can't just set up in front of anything. So Owen, of course, is going to have to be making sure to he's gonna have to make sure to play it correctly, that he doesn't give Last Mon Clefable the potential to start setting up in a way that's gonna put him in a situation he can't come back from.
Yeah, completely. We were talking about here, Piloswine could be something that could Clefable could easily set up on.
Exactly.
Uh,
So he's gonna have to be. He's basically going to be going out here into one of the, like, he's not going to get rid of the Sylveon because he does want the extra power on the Sylveon to potentially muscle past the Clefable if need be. However, as mentioned, if Clefable can get a boost up right here, it should be able to outpace even the Sylveon.
yeah, completely. And with that in mind, also, uh, the Alamomola that Owen has is also basically set up fodder for the Clefable too.
I mean,
And
yeah,
if Clefable is the last mon, uh,
it can't be
it,
whirlwinded out,
it
exactly.
it's going to be set up fodder. Owen is kind of Owen
Owen's in
it
a good
like
spot, but he has to make Owen's in a good spot, especially with the tools he has available. But he does have to make sure to use his tools. He has to make sure to not play foolishly in a sense that he can give Clefable the setup that it needs. And of course, these are
yeah, I
really big
completely
ifs right
agree.
here. These are a lot of setup that the Clefable is going to be requiring in order to really be able to muscle past things like Charizard and able to be able to muscle past things like Sylveon. But it is potential, and it's something that Owen has to be careful for. Now, Owen, of course, that information has already been revealed. Owen knows what set the Clefable is. He knows, he's seen the Calm Mind, he's seen the Cosmic Power. He knows what set it is. So he does know that he does know what it is, and he does know what's in the back. So I can't see Owen playing in a way that would give Clefable that setup, but as we always mentioned, it is something that exists.
And to be honest, looking at it, I still think King does have a chance with either Snorlax or Clefable as the last mon.
I can see the Snorlax. I can see the Snorlax. However, it is the Charizard set is actually a very offensive set. The Charizard is an outrage during its set. So even with a even with the thick fat, the potential to boost with the Charizard, to boost even alongside, even just to outpace just with the outrage, is going to be able to scare pretty much the Snorlax just in general, because the Snorlax shouldn't be able to, I mean, again, if it starts setting up to an extent that we had mentioned again that the Clefable might, that could be a problem as well. But as long as there's still 3 Pokemon, and as long as there's still Pokemon that can be whirlwinded out, then Owen isn't too afraid of keeping something like Alomola or keeping something like Piloswine in on these threats, because they can be whirlwinded out before
Yeah, and
they take
as
it.
we saw here, I think it was a good play on Owen's part. He just went for a safe knockoff, make sure that Snorlax isn't getting any leftover recoveries, while King predicted at least Owen to not to predict, but to go into Sylveon and try to wish it back up to health.
And with those leftovers knocked off, the Snorlax isn't going to be having any passive recovery, so any small amount of damage is going to have to be answered to with a rest eventually. Very soon, it's going to have to come in, and once the rest comes in, then that starts to be an unreliable form of setup, an unreliable form of attack, an unreliable form of really doing anything. So we see the switch out here into the Sylveon versus the Clefable. As mentioned, the Clefable is most likely the win condition, so we don't know whether or not he's going to want to stay in here versus it. He should live the he should live the hit because I don't see him going for the Hyper Beam right here. So he might just want to stay in and go for the Moonblast, get rid of the Sylveon once and for all, and then heal himself up later on something like the Alomomola. But again, once you do that, if you're taking that, then the Charizard is going to be it's going to be for sure in range of the Charizard.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Owen's put in a little hard, not Owen, but King has put in a little hard position. Owen actually can be in a pretty safe position. That Hyper Beam, a Choice Specs Hyper Beam, could actually basically just take a life right now.
I mean, I don't see him going for it, especially, I mean, if he thinks the Clefable is going to stay in, potentially wants to do that. But I don't see him going for the Hyper Beam with the chance to be able to give Clefable setup.
I guess I could agree with that. What I like to see is if Specs Hyper Beam does 70% to a +2 spell def Clefable, then I think that it could easily take out a Clefable from full health.
Right,
And
but we would be seeing right there the sack on that point, so it wouldn't be really the most ideal situation, because if you Hyper Beamed on the Landorus, then the Clefable comes in after the Clefable can start setting up. But we do see the switch, the Charizard into the Landorus right here, so you have to be thinking King is a little bit better off right here on that exchange right here. Again, this isn't Stealth Rock's Landorus, so it's not like he can set up Stealth Rocks on the Charizard switching out and then put it down to very, very minimal amount of HP. Because he doesn't. He's Stealth Rock's Heatran. So Charizard most likely going to be switching out right here. The Alomomola is still there in the back, and King still has 3 Pokemon. So as long as there's 3 Pokemon, Alomomola is not a momentum breaker to the point where setup can start happening and you can start breaking through your team.
And I think King is gonna just do I don't want to say a safe prediction, but I think he'll do a good middle ground prediction, and I think he's gonna expect Owen to switch out into Alomomola, expecting Earthquake or a Stone Edge of some sort, and I think King is just gonna make a good middle ground play. I think he's gonna go for Toxic right here.
I can see that happening. I can see that happening. I can see
that bulky threat comes in.
We could see that happening. I think he has to make some form of play right here. I don't think he can afford to go for an Earthquake or a Stone Edge, which, as we've seen in the past, Owen has taken advantage of people who are forced into a scenario where they can't go for the most optimal play. We've seen that versus a Heracross and a Darmanitan. Would you see the Toxic coming out? I think Toxic and U-Turn were both fair plays because you could have brought in the Clefable the turn after right there, but just having U-Turn on Landorus prevents Owen from going for a double right here, because if he doubles, he's going to be coming in on the U-turn, and then King can take advantage of that in any way that he is able to, I suppose you could say. The miss is a little bit annoying, for sure. I don't think it's the end of the world, because again, the game plan right here for King is going to have to be winning with one of his 2 setup sweepers, and neither of his 2 setup sweepers really mind the Toxic. I mean, neither of them really need the Toxic. Now, obviously, the Toxic would benefit so much because it would be pressuring the Alomomola, it would be pressuring it to heal, it would be pressuring it to switch, reset the Toxic timer. So for sure, it's annoying. It's 100% annoying, but it's not the game-ending turn. But I mean, as like I mentioned, it would have been really, really nice. So the hard switch right here is into the Charizard. We could see the Charizard potentially trying to actually set up alongside this, go for Dragon Dances, because in regular form is what I'm trying to say. We could see it trying to set up Dragon Dances in regular form as long as it's resisting the Moonblast. We could see it just start going for as heavy as it can start hitting the Clefable just with straight up Flare Blitzes. Either option's pretty fair. Clefable can't be boosting its special attack as long as it wants to be boosting alongside the Charizard with the defense boosts. So that's interesting to talk about. So that's exactly what we see. We see a boost in regular form. We see. And of course, Charizard's going to have to be taking recoil right here, and the Clefable is going to be carrying the leftovers. So as long as it's one boost ahead of the Charizard right here, it's not impossible for it to come out on top of this. So both players right here are trying to go for game. And as long as Clefable doesn't have +2 special attack, if I'm not mistaken, as long as it's not +2 special attack, then Owen still has a kind of a failsafe in the back with the Mandibuzz, because until it gets to +2 special attack, the Mandibuzz can still eat the Moonblast.
Yeah, like we saw before when Clefable was at +1, that Mandibuzz did what or was able to take that attack, that Moonblast, and was able to roll wind it out.
For sure. So, and that's the other thing is the Clefable. As long as it wants to stay ahead of the Charizard, it's not going to be able to be boosting any of its special attack.
Yeah, which is kind
Because it's
of
going to have to
put
be
in.
pacing it. It's going to have to pace it turn for turn with Cosmic Powers if it wants to be living the turns after. Because basically, if Charizard gets neutral damage off onto the Clefable, meaning if it can get the hit off onto as if the Clefable had no boosts, then that would be pretty significant. That's going to be not damage you can just sniff off for sure. The other kind of interesting thing to talk about right here is if this was unaware, it would be a whole different story because well, Owen doesn't have a way to actually status this to the point where Magic Guard is the ability that he needs. If you'll look right here, we don't have Toxic on pretty much any of these Pokemon. It would have to be going for the burn and hoping to pressure it down with that.
Oh.
So we do see the switch out right here into the Mandibuzz, and it's going to be able to Whirlwind right here, and yeah, for sure, that's what it's going to go for. 52%, not the end of the world, and it's going to go right here into the Snorlax. Again, not even close to the end of the world because he can roost on this and still be at a healthy enough amount of HP to get rid of the Clefable. Not get rid of it, but switch it out, phase it out, remove it from the field.
Yeah, I think that was a good play by, or a good set of plays by Owen right there. He knows that the plays was going to be that he needed to just keep on trying to outpace the Charizard,
Right.
and the Mandibuzz was going to get a safe switch in. And even though it would take 50% from
And as long as it's above
a
50%, it's a failsafe. As long as the Mandibuzz is above 50%, it's a failsafe for the any Pokemon to start setting up as long as it's not last Pokemon.
yeah, 100%. Like I think maybe something for King to do here is maybe rest up a little bit to get his Snorlax back up to full.
Well, I mean, the rest in itself seems like a bit of a risky play for me. Because if the king wants to go for the rest, sure, he heals up his Snorlax. But we already mentioned that his setup sweepers aren't really relevant until he gets to the point where it's last Pokemon. So it's, in a sense, stalling it out. And once it stalls out, that puts crits and that puts misses, that puts any of those type of things, burns from Flare Blitz even. It puts that a lot more probable on the field once the turns start getting longer and longer and longer. But however, if he just, and as mentioned, if he goes for the rest, then his attacks, his moves, anything that he goes for starts being unreliable because he has to rely off Sleep Talk, and that in itself can lead to something like Charizard taking advantage of it, Mandibuzz taking advantage of it, or anything really to take advantage of it right there. So it seems like too risky of a play for King to have to try to rely on because, as mentioned, King's kind of game plan right here is to be setting up with the Clefable. So in all honesty, what King needs to do is he needs to sack his entire team to a Pokemon that Clefable can set up on.
Yeah, I think a relatively safe play here is just to go Landorus and to go off of Toxic, see what he gets to Toxic, because Owen does not have Heal Bell on his Sylveon. Nothing is going to be taking, or nothing's going to be wanting to take a Toxic, and
I mean, he could even go just into the Clefable if he wants, because if it wants to whirlwind him just directly the very first turn, he's still going to have to take a significant amount of damage. He's going to whirlwind him out into the Landorus, and the Landorus, it does have Stone Edge, if I'm not mistaken. It's not Continental Crush, but it is Stone Edge, and I mean, oh no, it's
no,
not.
it
No,
doesn't have
it's
Stonage. It does not
knockoff.
have Stonage.
Okay, so never mind then. That in itself can't threaten him. It's just the. I was going to say you could potentially get the Moonblast, and potentially the Moonblast is going to put him in range of the Stone Edge. But we know right here that that's not even an option for King to pull off.
Yeah, so like I said, I think we're just going to see some toxics thrown off right here.
I mean,
See what we could riddle down.
an interesting thing right here is Owen has to choose what he wants to kill Landorus with, because it's going to be kind of it has to be something he has to be concerned with, because whatever he kills the Landorus with could potentially give the setup opportunity that Fable needs.
That is true. I think we're going to see here. I think Owen's just
I mean, we can just see
probably
the
just going to.
double. We can just see the double toxic right here, um, or even just an earthquake, if in case he wants to try to pull some last minute switches out into the Sylveon. That's even potential. I mean, I can't really see the Charizard coming in because he needs the Charizard, and in case the knockoff hasn't been revealed, so in case he's going for his Z move right now, we haven't seen any other Z move, so if he has a Z move he's going for right now, he'd be going for the Continental Crush. So yeah, he's not going out to Charizard, he can't do that. We see the Whirlwind, which is 100% the best play, because that's, or the Whirlwind or the Roost, I suppose, are both viable plays, but it's very, very, pretty much the better play because it doesn't leave Last Mon Clefable. It should still
Yeah.
be out of range. I don't think it's a roll. I believe it's still out of range of Moonblast 100%. So that, of course, is a nice thing in itself. And I mean, he can just keep going for Whirlwinds right here. I mean, the Mana Buzz is getting low, but the Mana Buzz was only needed to start Whirlwinding as long as there was enough Pokemon, and now Landorus dies to Rocks, so the Whirlwind isn't really a relevant Pokemon. If he's trying to condition his Mana Buzz to die to Toxic on the turn where Clefable is going to be more of a threat, that's for sure understandable, because the Clefable will come in, he can bring in the Charizard after that, just fire off a Flare Blitz, fire off a Nuke, and then followed up with the Hyper Beam Sylveon, which would be a fashionable way to finish off the game, to say the least.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so. We just see King here
Actually, what
just
am I
go
saying?
for
We already
toxic.
saw this. We already saw the Rocky helmet. So, yeah, never mind. I was gonna say, because we already saw the Rocky helmet. I was gonna say, I mentioned before that he had the potential to have a Z move, but yeah, I already mentioned that we already saw the Rocky helmet. So that was just me missing that we already saw the Rocky helmet. So Clefable is going to get one setup opportunity right here, as we'll see. We'll have to see, and it's going to come down. It's going to come down to the what we saw a few turns ago on trying to outpace the Charizard. So we're gonna have to see whether or not this Clefable can actually outpace the Charizard, because it's now Last Mon Clefable and now has a defense boost, and that defense boost and that special defense boost, they're both here to stay.
Yeah, 100%. I think Owen, what he did was the right play.
I
He
think
didn't
he
have anything to
I
really
think
to
he
do.
potentially mistimed that. I think what he was trying to go for was getting enough damage off that he dies to Toxic on the turn that he heals Landorus, or he dies to Helmet, or he dies to Residual in the way on that last turn, so that he can bring Charizard in before Fable gets this boost. I think that's what he was aiming for. I think whether it's miscalculation or just not a potential thing that he could have gone for, one of the two. But at the end of the day, we do still have the same scenario we saw a few turns ago, but right now this is do or die. Whatever happens is going to happen, and it's not going to be able to be. It's not going to be something that either player can get around. Of
Yeah,
course, yeah.
I completely agree with that. It's Owen's doing what he needs to do. King is doing what he needs to do, and even though it's Clef Fable versus the world right
I
now,
mean, at the same
uh,
time,
I think
I don't have the highest hopes for the Clefable. I do like the Clefable, but as we mentioned before, the Clefable isn't going to be able to start boosting his special defense on the Charizard. The special attack rather on the Charizard. So it's not going to really be able to threaten the Charizard to a certain extent. I think the Charizard is going to be able to win this 1v1. I think it's very safe to say that the Charizard should be able to win this 1v1 pretty easily, even if it just wants to get to +6 and start firing off Flare Blitz. Regular form or not, if it wants to, it could go regular form and then follow it up with a Mega version. And, of course, we're all coming down to crits right here as well.
yeah, 100%. I think I think no matter what, if we do expect this game to end in a few turns or so, or in a or however long, despite the score being 4-1 right now in Owen's favor, I do believe this is a worthy finals. If you'd ask me.
Magikarp Life Orb. I mean, it's going to be interesting right here. Again, I don't see the Clefable coming over top of the Charizard. It seems he's trying to make the decision whether he wants to keep going for the Calm Mind, keep going for the boosts. However, it is now 2.5 attack versus 2.5 defense. So it's now as if it was just Mega'd. It's now as if it was no boosts at all. So it's back to normal. So Charizard is still going to be doing an insane amount of damage right here.
Yeah, 100%. Really, it's
I mean, if you think of it, it's an interesting scenario here because he can start firing off he can start potentially firing off Moonblast, and if Owen wants to Mega Evolve, he's gonna have to take Moonblast at +1 special attack, and I mean he should have to, in theory, he should have to Mega Evolve to deal enough damage to be threatening to the point. But if he fires off the Moonblast and he takes the Moonblast at +1 and he takes the recoil, we're gonna have to see what's gonna happen right here against the. We're going to have to see what happens right here, because he's basically going to be forced to Mega Evolve, right? If he Mega Evolves, he goes for the Flare Blitz. He shouldn't kill, and look at the special defense tab right here. We're at +6 special defense. That's going to be coming down to the Sylveon coming in the turn after. So it's going to come down to recoil, it's going to come down to damage right here. Moonblast, of course, is doing 25%. So, I mean, it's I don't know, we're going to have to see right here. Charizard is actually technically at +1, so in all honesty, this could even come close to Oakhorn. But, I mean, again, he has to Mega Evolve, he has to take a lot of recoil damage, and then he has to take the Moonblast to turn after that. So this right here is basically as far as we're going to get. I don't think King should make any play other than just going for the Moonblast. I don't know the damage calcs off the top of my head on what's going to happen right here. So you're going to, I mean, at home you guys might be doing the damage calcs, so you guys might know before we do. But we're going to have to see right here what ends up happening right here. So 72%, 29%, Moonblast, that's going to take out the Charizard.
Oh, yes it is, and now we have to hope that...
We're going to have to look right here. Look right here at the stats on this Clefable. It's +6 special defense, it's +5 defense. The Sylveon can't come in. I mean, it has to come in, but the Sylveon shouldn't, in any universe, kill this Clefable right here.
Let's hope. Or Owen has to hope right now.
I mean, Owen has to go. Owen has to come in, and Owen has to go off the Hyper Beam.
Yes, he does.
And I mean, that's his only hope left. And as we talked about before, Last Mon Clefable is not something that you should ever sniff about. And that's.
And Owen's saying in the chat right now, it's a roll. He's saying it's a roll right now. So
is it a roll? I guess we'll see.
What the facts is.
I mean, he has to go for it. He has to go for the Hyper Beam, and
he has to.
See.
This is the moment of truth right now.
Pretty insane when you think about it. This is +6 special defense. And if it's a roll at 35%... Oh, it's slower! No! It's slower!
Oh my god!
Well, to be fair, it did not... To be fair, when you think about it, it lost the roll anyways. That's 33%, it was at 35%.
Yeah,
so, that's, I mean, if King goes for any move other than Moonblast right here, that's a choke, because we're playing around with crits right here. No, if he...
100%. Oh, and we have a missed Hyper Beam.
I mean, to be fair, that was a choke, 100%. When he went for the... Oh, wait, I guess it was a speed... I thought King was creeping right there, so I'm not sure. But yeah, for sure. In theory, that could have been a choke because, again, we're playing around with crits, and you don't want to be putting it off. You don't need that extra HP for anything on Owen's side of the field because you do have... and you do have more than enough defense, more than a special defense for beating the Pilswine, beating the Alomoa. So, I mean, again, a bit questionable, but, I mean, I can't say I disagree.
Just saying here, what we did see the last couple turns, we saw a Clefable win a speed tie.
Both turns, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Clefable...
It shouldn't have...
Well, not both turns, but...
It shouldn't have mattered, to be fair, though, because the roll didn't kill. So even though it did get the speed tie, the roll didn't kill. And that's undeniable. That's not something you can talk about. So I think it's definitely 100% something we have to talk about right here. This is something that we have to talk about right here. We just saw the coach who drafted Cosmium round 1 and gambled it away. They're coming away with a grand title.
Look at this. And on top of that, Kingsicle right here, our champion, with that final kill on the Alomomola.
Could anyone have predicted
it was Clefable versus Formons.
And people say Clefable is bad. Who could have predicted this?
Clefable just took it all.
Oh my god, great games, great games.
Great game. I definitely think, in my
A little
opinion,
bit
this
slow to
was
watch, I
definitely.
suppose you could potentially say,
Yeah, I
but
would
this is
say
playoffs.
so, but I
It's
think
definitely
this
hype.
was still a very good championship
Great
match.
game, great championship, and yeah, King is going to be walking away with the. King is one of the very few people to actually beat Owen in this entire season. Now that we have to talk about it, there's King who beat him, there's Jarrett who beat him, and I believe Marcus, if I'm not mistaken, who was the last person? Was it Marcus or Brian?
No, no. Let's see here. He had to forfeit week 2 against Brian.
Oh yeah, but
He
that
lost against
forfeits.
Jarrett.
He lost against Jarrett.
Uh,
He lost against the Tapu Lele and the Jarrett for sure. I think there's one more person he lost to though, wasn't there?
um, I I don't completely remember right now. Nonetheless, he had an amazing season.
Oh, for
He
sure.
made
Owen had an
all of the.
incredible season. I mean, this is the Cinderella story in action right here. This is what you would expect to see in a fairy tale. And
Yeah, 100%.
speaking of fairy tales, what won the game other than Clefable?
Yeah, the fairy of the fairy tale
The
won the
Cinderella
game.
story has come to life. Well, that's all we've got for today, folks. Yeah, King's going to come away with the win. The round one Cosmium. People doubted it, but it was strategical all along, you guys. That was all part of the plan to put himself lower on the power rankings, put himself in a position where people would underestimate him. People would underestimate his Clefable. People would underestimate his team, and look where that got them.